Actually,
you've seen the bill?
I read the bill. Oh, absolutely, I read the bill. My attorney sent it to me. So they say institutional investor. And how do you define institutional investor? It's if you acquire 2 homes in 12 months, you're considered an institutional investor. Oh. Trust me. Oh, I read the bill.
Well, everyone might be shifting over to multifamily real quick.
I'm just telling you how it is. I don't see that happening at all, but I mean, you never know what's going to happen. Ken, if you had to start over and do it in the single family space only and not engage in multifamily, do you think you're a macro perspective guy, big economic guy? Do you think you could achieve your net worth through the single family space?
Oh, yeah. First of all, I love single family.
What are you doing to keep your units occupied? Are you vertically integrated? You own your own management companies for all your portfolio? And what are you doing proactively to acquire these tenants?
Yeah, great question. So,
what's up, guys? Welcome to another 11 out of 10 podcast. We're doing it bigger and better than ever before. Once again, today's guest is an absolute legend in the real estate investing space, none other than Ken McElroy.
Nice, thanks.
You got $2 billion of assets under management, over 10,000 doors, 7 best-selling books, 500,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Yeah.
Ken, thanks for joining us today. Spending some time with us.
My pleasure, man. It's great. Thanks for being in town, guys.
And we got Zack Keeps back once again. And we're going to kick it for the next hour and learn a little bit about your story, how you got to where you are today, and what lessons we can learn. So why don't we kick things off? Who is Ken? For people that don't know Ken, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I think I'm probably like everyone else, actually. I got into college with a wrestling scholarship. Probably the first time I was around business people, and realized, I'm probably not going to make it after collegiate wrestling. There's not really much more, so got to figure some stuff out. And I ended up taking a job while I was finishing college because I couldn't pay my rent, and in an apartment business, and I was an on-site manager, collecting rent, fixing stuff. I grew up, my dad was a contractor, and my mom was a hairdresser, so I grew up with hardworking parents. And so I knew how to do everything, literally plumbing, electrical, paint, clean, whatever. I just did whatever. And the owner came over one day, and he's like, thanks, man. Because I was like, this place is vacant. Like, people aren't paying. Like, it's pretty common sense, really, for me. I go, I just need good people in here. And then he came over after I cleaned it all up. And he's like, thanks. And all of a sudden, I saw the revenue go. And I was like, dang, I'm on the wrong side of the desk here for sure. And then that was when I decided I'm going to get my real estate license and kind of figure out this space. But it was completely lucky. And I did it literally. I was in a survival mode.
Yeah. Wow. And then what happens next?
Well, then of course, I ended up hooking my train to now a legend up in the Seattle area, a guy by the name of John Goodman that bought a lot of properties and grew a huge company. At the time it was called Goodman, then it went to Pinnacle, and then it got bought by Colliers, I think. And I don't know exactly how many units they had when they sold, but I know it was close to 100,000 or something. And John was my original mentor, and I started managing properties all up and down the Western U.S. And that's when I really learned. I started to learn the difference between good and bad purchases, good and bad management, good and bad markets, and all that kind of stuff. Because an owner of any real estate, they don't always know those things, and they buy anyway, right? Yeah. As we know. So then they turn it over to a guy like me, a property manager, and you either improve it or you don't. And if you don't, you get fired. So you really get creative as a property manager. So for the first 8 or 9 years, that's all I did was manage. I managed somewhere around 20,000 apartments, and in that period of time, just really, really busy. And then one day I was like, I need to own these. And that's when I stepped on the other side, but I didn't know how. And I didn't know how to raise money. I didn't know how to negotiate debt. I did, however, know when to spot a good deal. Because I had gotten enough of those in the property management world where I was like, I knew, oftentimes just rich people would bring assets to me. Yeah. I was in the fee management business, and I would go, dude, why did you buy this? I can't believe you paid this price. And you must not have looked at anything. And then sometimes you'd have a partnership or a group that would come. It would be a really, really good deal. I'm like, dang, this is a good deal. So it was so I learned right? From all these different partnerships, all these different groups on what to buy, where to buy, why to buy, if there's a story, no story. And then, of course, as a property manager, you have to squeeze out every nickel.
Yeah.
So that's where I learned how to really do value add. And so I felt really comfortable on being able to identify something and turn it into something. I knew I could do that. But I didn't know how. So that was the next piece. Started with 1, then it was 2, then it was 3. That was, next thing you know, I got to 1,000 units and then I didn't know how to grow a business. And then I had to figure that out. And then I got to 4,000 units and, I didn't know how to grow a business. So, and then all of a sudden I was like, okay, now I got to hire a CEO, CIO, CFO, COO. I didn't know how to do that. So then I had to figure all that out. So every single ladder rung it seems so far ahead, right? But now, I guess 30 years later, here we are.
Wow. Incredible story.
Let's talk about that first deal. I mean, that's an incredible transition. You got to do all the reps managing, which I think you kind of reverse engineered your career, right? By being in the trenches and then feeling it, seeing it, knowing all the know-how. Talked about the first deal. How did you stabilize it? Where'd you get the capital? What was that like?
So I bought some small stuff, right? With my own cash, ran out of cash. And I learned that, just from doing small things, that I was in the single family space initially, right? Condos, houses and stuff, and, putting tenants in there. I felt very comfortable with that. And of course I was using my own money as we do. And then I was still managing properties, and this guy out of New York, and his name was Leonard Litwin, and they called him New York Lenny. He sent his grandson out to Phoenix to build this 182 unit building. And they had all kinds of problems with it, right? Just, again, it's just an out-of-state owner, out-of-state developer building stuff. So they hired me to lease it up, fix it up, all that kind of stuff. And Mr. Litwin called one day, and I was always repairing and fixing and and doing whatever he could to kind of grow the NOI and all that kind of stuff. And when we got it to stabilization, he said to me, he's like, I really want to thank you. You did such a great job. And I said, I'd really like to own this building. And I remember it was all over the phone. And he said, you'd like to buy it? And I said, yeah, I don't know how, but I would, And I said, I've been my sweat and blood in this thing for the last couple of years, and it would be great. And so he sold it to me for 9.6 or 9.7 million, I think it was. Back then, which is, I still own the building, by the way.
What's it worth today?
Gosh, I don't know, maybe 40 to 50, probably. Wow. I've refinanced it a couple times since then, but
pulled out some of that.
Yeah, and that's actually been my philosophy. So his philosophy was, he owned 10,000 units in Manhattan.
Yeah.
His philosophy was buy, build, own, refinance, and try not to sell if you don't have to, right? If you do, 1031 to the next one. And so, again, I feel like I just was in the right rooms with the right people, trying to do things that I saw was successful from somebody else's standpoint. And Mr. Litwin was certainly kind of set my mind in motion. And every time I veered off of that, and I did, and I had a really good run in the early, call it the mid 2000s, 2001, 2, 3, 4, 5. Did a bunch of condo projects and spent a whole bunch of years, basically a big flip. And then I was like, afterwards, I made a lot of money, but I paid a lot of tax and I didn't own much. So I strayed off of that. But once I got back to long-term ownership, let the tax benefits kick in, try to manage them the best you can, find something that has a story, that has a value add, and keep them as long as you can. Mm-hmm. Once I kind of did that and got back on track, which was, almost 20 years ago now, things just really took off for me.
Yeah. Now, when you bought this and you said something really key there, you said, I want to buy it, but I don't know how. Obviously, you had to come up with the $10 million. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's where a lot of people get stuck. In our audience, a lot of people are starting off either wholesaling usually to get a little bit of money, then they take that, they start flipping, they start building their buy and hold. Most of our audience is on the single family side. Over the years, I've heard many people that want to transition over to multifamily, but the big thing holding the back is how do I get that $10 million? How did you scrap together the $10 million?
So the first thing that you do, obviously, is you look at the financials and you bring them to the lender, right?
Yeah.
And thankfully, this was really a handshake. This is back when handshakes meant something for real, and I love that about Mr. Lou. And I always say, like, he's a man of his word. He's since passed away, but that whole thing was really easy on me, right? I think I was probably good, but we decided on a price. I first went to the lender, and then the lender said, we can lend you, I think it was like 7.2 million against 9.7. So I knew I needed at least 2.5 plus. And that seems like not much now, but for the first time and never doing it, I was like, dang, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
But like anything, you put together now I almost laugh at my business plan back then, but I had a little business plan of what how I wanted to do it. And I honestly just started doing friends and family, asking anybody and everybody, 100 grand, and I cobbled it together. We cobbled together, $2.5 million, me and my partner, and we bought the building.
You were 10 years old 30 years ago. I mean, walking around with experience.
Exactly. Yeah. So that was it. 182 units, and there were some things that ownership did that I didn't agree with. But I did it because they wanted me to do it as a property manager. Yeah. And so there were some material things that I knew would juice the NOI that I did after I bought it. And that really helped. So, part of buying anything is like if anybody invests in something, what do they really want? They want to know, is my capital protected? Is it being managed? Am I going to get a return? And what's the story? Can I grow it? If I give you 100 grand, what's it going to be worth? And so once you start to figure out the model, it's the same every time for the investor. And this property certainly had that, right? And I think that it was also, I forgot to mention, it was a senior property. So it was in a 55 and older age-restricted community, which actually, believe it or not, put some barriers around things, right? It's market rent, but it was still a senior property in a senior area. And so, but as you guys know, I hit it perfectly because as the baby boomers started retiring, they're still active and in their 50s and 60s and even 70s for that matter, if they've taken care of themselves. And so we had this market rate active community. It wasn't assisted care or any of that, and it was fantastic. I bought a van. I had a activity director, and we were taking them to the store, to the hairdresser, to the doctor, wherever they needed, and we figured all that, and it just became the place.
I love that.
What did you offer? I mean, back then, and I like your secret when you're pitching, you're like, hey, listen, I've been managing it, so you're intimately familiar with the asset. Yeah. You said, here's some things that we're going to do to immediately juice the NOI. What did they get in return? Was it a pref? Did they get equity? A hybrid?
Yeah, great question. Yeah. So yes, if an investor's taking money from something, they definitely want a return, right? Especially like, all you got to do is stick it in like a T-bill right now, and you're going to get 4.
Yeah.
So there has to be some juice coming out of the property to be able to cover that. Yeah. But then, so typically we would, depending on the market, it needs to be somewhere between 6 and 8. In order to attract equity, you need to be at least a 6 or an 8. So we were always trying to buy properties that kicked off 6, 7, or 8% cash on cash, because I wasn't really looking for the cash flow as I was trying to buy the asset, right? So I could care less. If I could give all the money to the investor, I would. I don't care, because I knew I would get it at some point, right? So everything was delayed gratification, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 years even. So we would buy something. I didn't care if it was covering 6, 7, or 8%. Great. And the investors were happy. I was covering my pref. I didn't owe them anything else. And then, and then of course, as rents grow and you're managing it well, the values grow, you can put new debt on, and all of a sudden that's when you start getting paid. So for me, I was always of the mindset that pay the investor first, make them the priority, all the juice should go to them, and then I should be paid after I pay them back. So that was the model. It worked. And on this particular property, the big issue was it was priced all at one price. So upstairs, downstairs. And so they always had a problem with the upstairs units. So the upstairs units were always more vacant than the downstairs because seniors didn't like walking upstairs.
Yeah.
So pretty simple. I just increased the downstairs by $75, which made the upstairs a better deal. So I didn't lower rent, which is a mistake a lot of people make. What you do is you price more aggressively the ones that are always full, and then that, imagine, times, call it almost 100 units at $75. So there's all these little things that you can do when you buy something to fine tune and to create value. And then once you create that value, then you go back to the bank. And I think we grew the value from somewhere in the, let's call it the mid nines, into 13, 14 million in just a few years. And then you go back to the bank and you borrow 10 million.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then that 10 million pays back all the investors, pays off the old loan. And now I'm in the money, right?
Yeah.
Now I'm actually participating in the cash flow, and all the investors are out. At that point, the investors aren't physically out. They still own the deal, but their capital's returned. And so I don't owe them anything anymore.
Love that. Now, a lot of people watching this, they're in single family. Many of them have tried to branch over to multifamily to do a deal like this. Over the years, I've seen a lot of them try to make the transition. And I've only seen a couple of them successfully do it. Like one guy I know, Tim Bratz, he did it successfully. He used to be a client of mine years ago, flipping houses in Charleston, South Carolina. Now I think he has like 6,000 doors, not as big as you, but working his way up. Most of the guys, though, that I see try to get into the multifamily space, they'll work for 6 months or a year on one deal.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, their single family business falls apart.
Yeah.
Their cash flow, the core cash cow falls apart while they're working on this one deal or two deals. And I've seen over and over again over the years failing. Can you talk a little bit about what makes multifamily better than single family, why you prefer it, number one? And number two, why do you think so many people fail when they try to make that jump from single family over to multifamily?
Well, it's a really good time to talk about this because we just went through this run of all these, the syndicators, right?
Yeah.
That went out and raised a bunch of money and put it in the market at the wrong time. Okay, so why did they do that? They did that because they got the courage to go raise money, but they didn't really understand the macro, the market itself, where things were heading. They didn't see it because they hadn't been there before. Like, I got the heck beat out of me as a young man. So for me, the last few years were time not to buy. So the signs are all there.
Yeah.
So let me just give you a couple. The right way to buy a real estate deal is to put it in a contract, get 30, 45 days, let's say, of due diligence. Everything should be refundable. Do your homework, right? And then if you like everything, you go hard on the money and then you move forward.
Yeah.
That's healthy. So when it starts to get, 15 days, 10 days, 5 days, hard money day one, something's wrong. Okay. So the red flags are all there, but people were buying anyway. So, what was happening, yes, it was more competitive, but what was really happening is that they were chasing price because the interest rate was going down.
Yeah.
And so the cash flow looked great. And the real issue is that from the single family, to answer your question directly, is they don't know the signs. And on single family, it's extremely different. And so there are absolutely positive things that inside of a multifamily deal that I love. And the reason why I like multifamily is because if I get a deal, like I'm working on a deal right now, and we're buying it for 60% of the loan. Okay. Now, that still might not be a good deal.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Then you got to layer in all the operations. Then you got to layer in the CapEx. And then you got to layer in, all the things that it may or may not do. And then you got to have contingency, and you got to have all these kind of benchmarks in there of things that maybe we didn't see, right? And this is all before we even step on the building.
Yeah.
So when a lot of that stuff goes away, and you start to see these folks buying at a 4 cap or a 4.5 cap, and they the only way that the deal works is if the cap is lower. That's stupid. right? They just so they got into this. I can raise money from my Rolodex, and therefore I'm going to get into the market, and everything is blue sky, and that was the mistake. And so you can really do extremely well. I actually think that if the single family folks that want to jump over, they should do it now. They should do it when there's blood in the streets, because that's when there's not as much competition. Mm-hmm. And so it's just like anything, when there's a lot of people trying to buy something, it's not a time to buy.
Right.
And so what you want is that deal. You want the lender to call you. You want the broker to say, I'm working on this big project, and that's how real estate's really done. It's a relationship business. It's a network business. It's a are you going to do what you say business. And so the time to jump over could have been just the wrong time. And if you have to spend a lot of time on it, then it's the wrong deal. So we have an investment committee every week.
Yeah.
It's a 1 hour, and we'll cycle through deals, honestly, 15 minutes, 10, 20 minutes, 30 minutes at the most, and thumbs up, thumbs down. Now I also have people doing underwriting and analysts and all that kind of stuff, so I get it packaged the way I want it, but that's excessive. Like if somebody's looking at a deal that long or trying to find a deal that long, then you either know or you don't know pretty quickly, right? There's either a story or there isn't a story, and if you're having to, if you're having to really figure this out, then you either don't have the experience to see it quickly, or you haven't had the team to help you with that, and you're trying to do it yourself or whatever. There's a zillion problems with that time frame. I can't think of one time I've ever been looking at a deal 6 months in my entire career.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ken, if you had to start over and do it in the single family space only and not engage in multifamily, do you think you're a macro perspective guy, big economic guy? Do you think you could achieve your net worth through the single family space?
Oh, yeah. First of all, I love single family. I mean, I cut my teeth there, right? Mm-hmm. And I still actually have some here and there. There's a lot. Yes, you take a look at single families. I got a couple friends that are crushing it. They're buying these big properties with houses with that, and they're putting ADUs on them, and they're house hacking, and they're doing all this cool stuff. They're Airbnb part of it, So yeah, I love that, and I think that if I was to do single family over again, I would pick areas the same way I do now, as I would focus around areas that are high employment growth, high population growth, high tourist, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And we do the exact same thing every single time. Our model doesn't change at all. So what we do is we just pick the right metrics. The school system, where do people want to be? Is it affordable? And I have friends, like I'm going to Wisconsin in a little while. I got a buddy up there that owns like 180 homes, and he's crushing it. And he's like, and he just pays them off. And he's like, every time I need something, I just sell one or two, and I go, buy this or buy that. So there's a point where there's some mass, and that's not a bad strategy at all. The management can be a pain in the butt,
But I mean, I like the banter. I mean, I own hundreds of single family units specifically out here, and people say all the time, "How come you don't become Ken McElroy? How come you don't go buy multifamily?" You become an expert at one specific thing. So I think part of your question, to jump over to something when you're an expert at something and it's already working, why incur that risk? I mean, I'm curious too. Do you think there's better appreciation? Maybe there's potentially easier banking for the multifamily and aggregation, but from a single family perspective, I've personally seen more appreciation on my portfolio than I've seen against multifamily.
Bingo. Yeah. So here's the thing. I've made this mistake a lot. Like I jumped into condos Like I did those projects. I did self-storage. I did office. I did land development. I did, I bought 200 acres and did, 20, 10 acre, estates. And like, what happens is you're like, oh, real estate's real estate. I can do anything. Your learning curve's like this, right?
Yeah.
And I always messed it up.
Yeah.
Like I knew the basics, right? I knew my lenders. I knew the equity and all that kind of stuff. But you don't know what you don't know. Like even on my office building, I was like, every single move out was like 100, 200 grand, you know what I mean? For TIs and stuff. And I was like, oh geez, like I didn't budget for that.
Right.
And so there's all these things that there's nuances in, so I'm a big believer of stay in your lane. And, I've got the heck beat out of me. I just stay in my lane now. I just do multi. That's it. Pick the right markets and we're good at that, right? To your point. And for me to jump outside of that arena, there's risk. The real risk.
Well, I think one of the key advantages you had a decade working in a sector with an expert.
Correct.
Building that 10,000 hours, whatever you need to really be an expert. So when you come into your first project, you see stuff that for you might be obvious, like raise the first floor rent $75 to, go stabilize demand between floors. For a lot of people, that might not be so obvious, right?
Right. And to your point, like that, you see that, like on your single families, like you see stuff I don't see.
Right.
Like,
we'll see a weird
100%. Like, you see a 3.2, I walk in and say, I'm turning this into a 5.3. No one thought about that, so I can get an extra $300 on rent. My cap rate goes up 2%.
Right.
Yeah.
And I always say, real estate is it's what you see. It's that nobody else sees, and that's actually been our competitive advantage on the apartments. Is I'm trying to buy the. I already have the story. I know the exit. I know the value add before I buy something, just like you do.
Yeah, 100%.
But yet I see people, that just they raise money, they buy stuff, and the problem never gets solved, and so you go in there, there's still plenty of meat on the bone with people that, have bought poorly.
Yeah. You said that today is probably one of the best times to start buying in the multifamily space. What do you think is driving that? I have some ideas, but I'd love to, for people who are watching this and wondering why.
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons. The thing that exposed it all were the interest rates, right? That went up. That's it. Right. So that's the first thing. What did that really expose? It exposed property management. It exposed whether they bought rate caps or not. It exposed whether they underwrote the property correctly. It exposed whether they picked the right market. It exposed so much. And so all that stuff's popping all over the place. The syndicator or the owner that uses the right management company that helped them buy or is helping them through this time is in the best shape. But most people, because the ego, don't do that, right? They're like, oh, property management's easy. It's the last thing we need, and so they go tackle it themselves. I love that because those are the people that's what we want to buy. So what we're seeing today are people that didn't manage their reserves correctly. They didn't have enough money to make it through. They horribly communicate to their investors. They're raising capital, on deals that, have already gone sideways and they're trying to put more capital in. And there's all this stuff that goes on with the GP-LP splits. And, and they're just trying to save their butts. I get it. But it's all getting exposed. And so what's happening now, so that's number one. And so what happens when interest rates go from, let's say, 4 to 6 or 7, there's no cash flow, period. All things being equal, rents being the same, expenses being the same, they don't cash flow. So then they run out of money. And then they try to raise more money, and then they, all of a sudden they're like, well, the values are down too, because when rates go up, the values go down. And so you have so at the time the loans mature, they're sitting there. They bought something for $20 million, it's worth 15, and that might be their loan. And so all of a sudden they can't refinance, and so they have to sell it. And hopefully it is 15 because at least they can trade the deal for the cost of the loan. But in a lot of cases, it's below the loan. So the one thing that's happened is a lot of the LPs lost a lot of money during this period of time. And some have been communicated to, some haven't been. But at the end of the day, all that's making its way right now. And so people have run out of money. They see that rates aren't going to come back to the way that they were. And even today they're in the 5s, which is pretty darn good for us. But they're not in the 3s and the 4s, and they're and the values are way down. So if anybody bought anything based on the value being more, the business plan doesn't work.
Yeah.
So all that's kind of exposing itself at the moment.
Yeah. One of the things on single family is we can marry the house and date the rate.
Yeah.
Right. So if the rates are really high, prices are depressed, we can get into the house at a high rate, and then we just wait for rates to come down, and then we refi out of it, because we can lock in those low rates for 30 years. You don't have that same advantage on multifamily, right? I think it's 5 years max you can lock in your rate. Is that correct? Or
so yeah, there's a couple things you can do with multi. I actually, first of all, I always do fixed rate. So
can you do fixed for how long can you do a fixed rate for on a multifamily?
So it just depends. It depends on the loan, but you can do a fixed rate loan the whole term. But you might today we're getting 3-5 year interest only for the first 3 or 5 years, and so what you then, of course, you're now through the period of time where the principal kicks in, right? So you've got that, but I want certainty of my mortgage payment all the way down the line. So so that's one of the things that got a lot of people in trouble. You can't do that on new construction because new construction's a floater. And a lot of people did those short-term rates, and so it took discipline to do fixed rate while you can get better pricing with floaters. And
so a lot of guys took these floaters, and now they're
that goes back to delayed gratification.
Yeah.
Right. The problem with today's mentality is everyone has that cocaine mentality. They want that quick fix. We're gonna make all this money. We're banking on appreciate. Everything's going up, and all these young hustlers that are raising the capital say, "Oh, we're gonna double our 20 million to 40." And when it shifts, they have no contingency plan. So you want to sleep at night. You pay a slightly higher rate, but it's fixed, and the exit.
And the real issue is, to your point, I want to know what my mortgage payment's going to be
in 6 years.
Yeah. Period. Yeah. Because I can manage my expenses.
Yeah.
To some extent, property taxes, insurance, and all that kind of stuff. That's a whole nother animal. But I also know if I can keep the property full, and I'm subject to the market. But generally, especially heading into where we're heading now, we're going to see rent growth. So if I can do all that, and my biggest cost of the whole project is debt, by a long shot. So if I can fix that, and I know what that is every single month for the next 4 or 5 or 6 years, then I can work on everything above it. I can work on the expenses, I can work on the income, on the rents, and all that kind of stuff, and the other income, and the vacancy, and all the things that are up top that generate the real cash flow. Then now I've got something to work with. And on multi, there's a bunch of loan products where you can actually assume them.
Yeah.
So right now, you can go find. I just saw a deal the other day come out 3.5 fixed, had 7 or 8 years left on it or something. Wow. You can step into the shoes. Now they want a premium, of course.
Yeah.
But HUD is another one where you can do fixed and you can do construction to perm. They also have a program where you can put new debt on without refinancing the first. So the commercial lenders have figured out a little more creative ways to be able to stay into stuff and so when I say today, I say if you can buy something today with today's rates, and it cash flows. If it goes up, you look like a hero. Yeah. If it goes down, you just keep refinancing on the way down, and you just keep scooping money out tax-free, and you just keep ratcheting the rate down. And so, I've been in this before. After 2008, we went through this, where our rates were. I'm going off of memory here, but I think we were in the 6s and 7s, and it would cash flow, and then they were in the 5s, and we refinance, and we're like, sweet,
yeah.
Then they'd be in the 4s, and we refinance again, and then they got down into the 3s. So I've been through this before. The key is to make sure cash flows at today's rate.
Right.
Don't buy anything based on I think the future is going to be X.
And when you're doing those refinancings, you're pulling out that equity. That's not taxed, correct?
Right. Yeah.
That's a huge
debt.
thing on your strategy because you're pulling it's debt.
It is our debt. We call it our infinite return. So let's say you guys give me $10 million on a $40 million deal or $30 million deal. Let's say $20 million of debt, 10 of equity, and I'm able to just manage the heck out of it. And there's a story around it, and I can grow the value to 40. Right. And this is not pie in the sky. This is something that we could do easy. Then I take the 40 back to the bank, and they give me, let's say, 75 LTV. All of a sudden, I'm paying back most of your equity at that point. So that's the entire plan. The entire plan is to find something broken, raise the money, pay a return, and then bring it back to the bank and do a cash out refi. At that point, really, I'm just returning your capital.
Yeah.
So obviously there's no tax on just giving your money back. Mm-hmm. But beyond that, it's also tax free because it's debt. I'm not selling. See, the IRS wants a piece of your flesh when you sell. So if you sell a house, you pay your capital gain. Mm-hmm. You sell an apartment building, you pay your capital gain. You sell anything, you pay a capital gain. But this is not selling. It's just we call it. We have the technical term here. Bites of the apple, right? We're taking another bite of the apple, right? 2, 3. We actually close Thursday of this week on another property, 276 units that I own in Flagstaff. It'll be my third refinance.
Wow.
And I've owned the property for over 15 years.
It's incredible.
So it's just like a cash machine, right?
I remember years ago, I sat down with a buddy of mine whose family was very wealthy, probably worth a few $100 million. And he said, Robert, you know what the rich people understand that the average American doesn't? I said, what?
Taxes.
No, he said debt. He said, the rich use debt. It's like the infinite money glitch. If you can use debt and make your money through debt, you never have to pay tax. And I didn't really understand it at the time, but now being in the space for so long, like strategies like this, you're just...
Well, I'll tell you, like I had to learn this too, because when you're going through school, you're like, debt is bad, right?
Yeah, like Dave Ramsey. What do you think of Dave Ramsey? Like,
oh my gosh.
No debt, zero debt.
I know, I have to laugh at that guy. Now,
he was on a podcast the other day. I listened to this clip. He went out on the podcast, and I think it was Graham Stephan was interviewing him, and Graham asked him, if I were to give you $1 billion loan at 0% interest, would you take it?
He said no.
He said no.
That's insane.
I know,
That's crazy.
dude. I know.
That's insane.
I just was on Graham.
Like you could put it in T-bills, and like
arbitrage.
Arbitrage. He said no.
Yeah. So I know there's a guy that's so rooted in principle that he doesn't see. Which, by the way, I have a lot of respect for what he does, but that was a fail for sure. But here's the interesting thing that I had to learn about debt. Obviously, I hate credit card debt. All my personal stuff, my houses, my cars, I don't have debt. Personally, I use it for investment, right?
Yeah.
But what people don't realize is that when they go to the bank, let's say like our paycheck, and they put it in the bank, that's actually a problem for the bank. The bank actually owes you interest on your money.
Yeah, it's liability.
So now the bank's sitting there with an expense.
Yeah.
Period. And then the bank, what do? They go, you know what? I'm going to lend it to Ken. So then they give you 2 or 3, and then they lend it to me for 6 or 7, let's say. That's how it works. It's other people's money. It's your money. So what gets people in trouble is what I call uncovered. So if I borrow $10 million from a bank, I damn well want to make sure that my tenants are going to pay that off.
Right.
So I never, ever do something that puts me in a position where I don't have the income covering the payment.
Yeah.
So to me, that's the whole thing. Like if you're going to borrow, you should not borrow a lot, 50, 60% at the most. And then make sure that it's covered, period. Make sure somebody else is paying it off. If nobody else is paying it off, that's when people get in trouble.
Yeah. So on one side, you have the guys like Dave Ramsey that just see debt is evil. Mm-hmm. On the other side, you have debt maximalists, Robert Kiyosaki is famous for being like, take as much debt as you can. And I think he said he's got over $1 billion of debt. Because the whole hypothesis there is inflation is basically paying it off for you, and you're getting arbitrage on it because your asset value goes down, your debt goes down, you're arbitraging it. Where do you sit? Are you someone that, like on your portfolio right now, what kind of debt percentage of leverage do you have on it?
So Robert and I are partners on a lot.
Oh, amazing. Yeah.
A lot of real estate. I don't even know how many units, but a lot. We've been friends for 25 years.
His book got me into the space.
Yeah. And these books, ABC's of Real Estate Investing, where I was the rich dad advisor for real estate forever.
Wow.
But the point that you asked is there's a turning point for debt. Like I see it. Like I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were like, "We can get zero down." I go, "But that's 100% financing." Like, I go, "That's not good."
No.
So I always tell people there's a cost for equity and there's a cost for debt. So the blended cost is what we call the blended cost of capital. So if debt is 8 and equity 6, then your blend, and 50-50, your blend is 7. So that's how that works. So you should always look at, for me, if I'm going to get debt of any kind, I want to make sure. So I size it to the asset. So let's say I got $100,000 coming in on a property per month, right? On the NOI. So income minus expenses. And let's say it's $100,000. I want to make sure that I'm way in the money. So I might only want my mortgage payment to be $60,000 of that. Right. You know what I mean? So I'm really got a lot of cushion.
Mm-hmm.
So that's obviously they call that the debt service coverage. But the point is that's what I look at. So I start with the asset. I start with the cash flow. Then I size the debt. I don't ever try to maximize the debt on something just to reduce the amount of equity, because I size the debt to the cash flow, and then that determines the loan to value. And so for us, what seems to be comfortable is somewhere between 50 and 60%. That's where we like to be. And yes, that means more money down, but for me that's what keeps me.
More sleep. More sleep at night. That's the biggest cost of debt. Is how well do you sleep?
Stress. Stress.
And all my debt's covered. As long as my occupancy is in the 90s, it literally has to be in the 70s for me to be concerned. Right. My occupancy at all my projects, and I'm somewhere. I think I'm at 92% right now.
Wow.
Let's delve into this. This is interesting because we had a preliminary discussion about marketing and tenants in the future, and you're, again, macro guy. What are you doing today? Because I'm vertically integrated. I self-manage, but I'm out there, Instagramming and Zillow. And what are you doing to keep your units occupied? Are you vertically integrated? You own your own management companies for all your portfolio? And what are you doing proactively to acquire these tenants?
Yeah. So, great question. So, we live and breathe on. I first of all, I consider my tenants our customers, and they pay everybody. They pay me, they pay the investors, they pay my management company, they pay all my staff, they pay everybody. So we covet we believe they are the lifeblood of the whole business.
Yeah, smart.
So that's the first thing. And so there's a couple things. The first thing that we do is, I think a lot of times people look at they look out and they go, we have so many vacancies, we need to advertise, we need to do all this stuff, and we need to fill these vacancies. I look in, I go, I got 92% people living here paying me already. How do I spread love to them? How do I keep them here? How do I retain them? What money can I spend on them? How much money do I need to give my properties each month to have, resident retention parties? And what can I buy them donuts? Can I buy them coffee? Can I do this? Can I do that? Like, seriously, like we have a huge piece of our company that tries to lower turnover.
Love it.
And I think that's a big piece. The other thing is during that piece, naturally, what you have is if people are happy, just like anything, like when you go to a restaurant, you're like, oh my God, chef crushed that meal, right? Like, we like I go to the Global all the time. My buddy's the executive director there, or executive chef, right? And he crushes it, right? And I probably referred 100 people there, right? You got to go there. And so I got buddies staying there, living there, moving in there, eating dinner there, lunch there, breakfast there,
this week,
right? All that stuff, right? Okay. So that is the customer experience, right? Yeah. So I believe the same thing happens within our communities. So when people are really happy like that, when you ask them, would you refer then you start to get, there's a whole referral program. Now, that's not fail safe, of course, because a lot of people are like, I don't really care if I get $100 or $200 off my rent, but thank you. But some people do. So that's obviously if they're happy, and we do that. Beyond that, there's a number of things that we do with AI right now. On getting people from social all the way through the system into the online experience of being able to literally view an apartment, do the 360 view, take a look at where they're going to be, and the whole thing's buttoned up, like completely buttoned up, even the lease, all the way to the point where the only thing they have to do is literally show up. And COVID, if it taught us anything, it's that some people will just rent sight unseen if you've got your presentation. So we spent a tremendous amount of time on that. Like, you guys do it with homes so well, honestly. So I think so that's another piece. And then beyond that, what happens is most of the time it's employers, it's the prospecting of a particular market, right? And then all the normal stuff. But the drive-by stuff that we used to kind of rely on, that's a lot less than it used to be. And so it's all digital, all online, a lot of it AI, and of course anything to do with all the socials. Of course, they're all important. And I always tell everybody, why wouldn't you do all this stuff? It's free, like literally free, right? So the strategy, it's really changed. Because I started like way back, I'm old, newspapers.
Wow.
Then it went to the Apartment Guide and For Rent Magazine. Then they digitized, and then it was SEO, then it was website. Now it's ChatGPT, so it just keeps moving. You got to stay relevant. You got to stay ahead of it. And so we're constantly learning. So sorry for saying this, but if you're over 40, you don't know much about marketing anymore, right? It's the truth.
Good to see you guys.
Yeah. So no, it's the truth, right? Like it's really interesting. So like the people I have working on my channel, they're in their 20s, like your young man here. Like, those are the guys that know better, and the young women and men, they're crushing it. They know what's up. So I had to adapt, right? You have to wrap your head around. So things change, and they're changing fast. And so for us, the cool part about it is we can turn on the engine for all that stuff on a particular project. If we have occupancy, let's say it goes from the say mid 90s into the high 80s. We know on each week, and then we're like, okay, what do we need to do here? And so we're constantly just spending money, turning the spigot off, turning it on for ads and Facebook ads and all the things that you need to do. But it's a very interesting business. But the lifeblood of everything is just how full are you? Like, you know what I mean? Because when you're full, and that's the other thing. I'll just lead with one more thing. I don't believe that we should maximize rents. Now I know a lot of people.
Why is that?
Well, because it forces vacancy.
Yeah.
So for that little bit extra, by the way, if you're going to sell a property, different.
Yeah.
So we have there's several ways that you manage building. The first one is for cash. If you're going to manage something for cash, then what you do is you want high occupancy, and you don't really have to be everyone at market. Because when you start to push everyone to market, which is kind of what everybody thinks they should do, you actually create vacancy, right?
Yeah.
Because they can go over here, go over there, and rents are, let's say, $2,000 over there, $2,000 over here. If I'm at 1,900, I'm going to get everyone.
Yeah.
And I'll be at 98%. I'd rather be at 98% at 1,900 than at 2,000 at 89 or 90%. Right. So you just do the math; it just makes complete sense. So there's a science to raising rents, and you got to be really, really careful. Again, going back to the customer, and so when you're getting ready for a refinance or to sell something, very different. Of course, you're pushing rents on one bedrooms. You're actually trying to create vacancy, believe it or not. Wow. So if I'm full on my one bedrooms and full on my two bedrooms, let's say, I'm like, the rent's too low. So I push it, and I'll squeeze out that extra 50, 75, 125 or whatever it is. And then you kind of see where they are. We do all this before we even package a property for a refinance or sell. And so we're pushing the rent roll to the market resistance, creating vacancy, oddly enough. And then if I'm sitting at 92%, I'm actually feeling pretty good about my rent roll. So you know, while you own it, you want to be 98% and have a lot of cash. But while you're, you know, so it's all part of management. You know, you got to be careful because residents will move for $50 or $75.
I've seen them move for 25 in today's economy.
Yeah,
They're
you got to
very
be careful,
finicky.
You got to be careful, and you got to covet them. I swear, like you got to treat these folks. They're getting whacked with inflation.
Yep.
You know what's going on right now is horrible, and so you know everything's more expensive. So the extra little bit is important. I would rather have somebody for 5 or 6 or 7 years and just have a conversation with them and slowly just raise them over time and be under the market personally and have a highly occupied, because again, I'm solving the cash flow. I'm not, why do I care? Honestly, it's a win-win. They get a good deal. I get a good deal. I'm highly cash flowing. It's a win-win. I know it's there. At any time, I can turn the stove up and say, I want to maximize the rents here. But why would I do that? You know, unless I'm selling or unless I'm refinancing. So there's a time to do that. So it's all part of that strategy, and it's also what you learn in the property management world as you're navigating this, you know, because expenses are not your friend, man. Like they're going up like crazy, right?
But also turnovers. People are so short-sighted, and they say, "Oh, I'm going to bump $100." You lose that tenant. Now you have 2 months of vacancy. You just lost $4,000 or $4,300 plus utilities plus the turn. Your turns are $4,000 or $5,000 most likely, and then you're paying a management to fee to somebody.
Bingo.
So you just lost $8,000. That's 4 months of rent when you were negotiating over $100 for a 25% differential.
You're spot on. So that's the whole nuance of behind the scenes of property. That's what you get with a good property management company, is that, because to your point, like our rents, let's say our average rent's $2,000. Mm-hmm. That's $83 a day, right? Or something like that, or pretty close.
70.
Right? Or 70, yeah. Let's call it $70 a day. Okay. So really, for one day, like, what do you want to get, a $75 increase? Or, like really? Like, is that really worth it? It's not, right? So you're better off to like renew that tenant, especially now. And there's a time to do it. And right now is not the time. Right now is the time to preserve, take care of your folks, keep the occupancy high, try to manage those expenses as best you can, and maximize your cash flow.
I want to talk a little bit about the macroeconomic environment before we wrap up today. One of the things I love about your YouTube channel I've been watching since probably 2019 is you have a really good grasp for the macro. And a lot of the things you predicted over the years happen exactly the way you predicted they would unfold. If we wind things back 30 years, the average first-time home buyer was 30 years old. Today, they've dumped so much cash into the system. It's now 42 years old. So the boomers are laughing to the bank. They're sitting on over $30 trillion of equity. Yeah. They're buying their second, third house. But the millennials, the Gen Zers, they've been completely priced out. Trump went out in Davos just this week, and he said, hey, we want to make it affordable for first-time home buyers to be able to buy a home. We want to bring back the American dream, but also do it without collapsing home values. Where do you think the market is going from a macroeconomic standpoint over the next couple of years?
It's a great observation. So he what he said is, I don't want to have a nation of renters too, which is, by the way, that's my business. I completely agree with him.
Yeah.
Because I have two 20-year-old kids that can't afford a house, right? And there's what you're supposed to be able to do is go into a rental, build your credit, save some money, buy a house. Like that's how a lot of us came up. That's not on the table right now. So I completely agree. Here's the thing, as you start to look at history, Clinton had literally, just Google this, American Dream plan. Bush had an American Dream plan. Now Trump's got an American Dream plan. So this plan is not new. However, the nuances and the policy behind it all could be new, but it's very interesting. And so it depends on what goes on inside of the plan, right? So those plans, what specifically Bush's did was everybody needs to own a house. And what happened was the home ownership rate went up to 69.2% under Bush, and it popped under Obama. So that was the GFC, right? So everybody kind of blames Obama, but it was really, he didn't create all that. He just kind of got the brunt of it. And it was all done through all these different things, right? And I went through this 2008 crisis personally myself. We were buying stuff during that period of time. And what happens in a crash, and I think this is a really important distinction, a crash produces renters.
Yeah.
Period. That's what happened in 08. So all these renters, all these people that were supposed to be homeowners moved over into the rental side. That's what corrected the rental market. It's not like I'm so smart. Like, it's just really, it's math.
Yeah.
People moved over. We had 4 million houses on the MLS back then. So, they just moved over to the rental side. They put all this pressure on the rental side, and then everybody jumped into multifamily, and they're like, look how smart we are. And then, boom, again, like history repeats itself.
Yeah.
So markets are predictable, really, based on these kinds of behaviors. So when you look at Trump and you look at the American dream, what I'm really looking at is what is he actually going to do? Is he going to do the 50-year mortgage? Is he going to release federal land? Is he going to make a portable mortgage, which would be really, really difficult?
It'd be pretty awesome, though.
Yeah,
really unlock a lot of inventory.
If they could. He's talked about on the VA, he's talking about letting people use the 401ks. So all of those things, he's really all over this. I actually love it.
Yeah.
I think that the Wall Street has locked up a lot of people's money.
Yeah.
And including 401ks, including all the stuff, and there's penalties to pull people's money out. They should be able to do what they want. And the reason why Wall Street doesn't get paid on that is they haven't figured out a way to monetize real estate. Once they do, they'll be fine with it. But right now, they're going to want to keep control of it. So I think he's on the right issues. The point is, it could create another bubble, right?
Yeah.
I don't personally see house prices going down anytime soon. We're at 1 million now. This is the low end of the pre-pandemic. 1 million MLS, I think we're about really close to that right now. Well, that's with 133 million households, right? If you go back to 2008, it was like 125. So we've grown by like 8 million households, and we're still at 1 million. Even though, so 2008 was really a problem with the 4 million, but now we're at 1 million. We're not going anywhere soon because we have a supply problem.
Yeah.
And so the only thing that I think he can do is it's like what they did with car loans. Back when I was buying a car, it was 36 or 48 months. Now you can go at 84. I think it's over 100 months now or something.
Crazy.
Right? And they're just solving to the monthly.
Yeah.
That's all they're doing.
Yeah.
So I think that he's going to go after that, spread it out, make the monthly less, and then figure out how they can buy. I'm all for this because I think people should be in hard assets personally.
Yeah.
And they should not be renters because if we do produce a nation of renters, we're going to be funding them anyway in retirement. Because I don't know about you guys, but my mom was a hairdresser, my dad was in construction. And they still own the home I grew up in, and that's what they have.
Yeah,
literally, they don't have cash. They have that house, and I think that is going to be that is a big safety net for people because inflation crushes almost everything else.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Now, a lot of the things that he's doing would crank up demand. That puts upward pressure on prices. The only thing that I've seen from him on the other side of things is banning institutional investors from owning single family assets, which I think if you're watching this, you probably don't need to worry about that. Like he's going after like the tricons and stuff.
Well, that's not true though. When you read the bill, it's actually 2 homes in 12 months per person. So it's actually.
Have you seen the bill?
I read the bill. Oh, absolutely. I read the bill. My attorney sent it to me. So they say institutional investor. And how do you define institutional investor? It's if you acquire 2 homes in 12 months, you're considered an institutional investor. Oh, Trust me. Oh, I read the bill.
Well, everyone might be shifting over to multifamily real quick.
I'm just telling you how it is. I don't see that happening at all, but I mean, it's you never know what's going to happen.
So on the flip side, yeah, I've been in Silicon Valley for the last 12 months, and I've seen what's coming with AI like a year before it comes out. The top guys in the AI space, like Daryl Modi, the CEO of Anthropic, which Anthropic, basically everyone in Silicon Valley uses that to write code these days. No one writes code anymore. They're just doing what they call vibe coding. He's predicting 20% unemployment in the next 12 to 36 months. We just got ChatGPT 1,000 days ago. So it's like, okay, where does this go if you extrapolate another 1,000 days? Because it's not growing linear, it's growing exponential. So one of the thoughts I've had is like, okay, he predicts there's a white collar bloodbath coming.
Yep, I agree.
And then if there's a white collar bloodbath coming, then that $36 trillion of equity, my thought is people are going to start breaking that piggy bank, cashing out on the equity, and then that would actually increase demand for rentals further.
Yeah, I agree. I think middle management's in trouble. There's a lot of things that I have a good friend that's a securities attorney. Actually, we were using him, and he's out of Orange County. He called me. It's been a few months ago. He's like, "Hey, I just sold my practice." I go, "What? What are you doing?" He's like, 5 years, I'm obsolete, right? This is from him.
Yeah.
And so you start to see, I'm sure I'm not the only one with a story like that, right? There are things that are going to be super automated. So yes, I do think that is coming. I think unemployment's a real thing, which is why I'm doubling down on apartments because, listen, I know people don't like UBI, right?
Yeah.
But
it's
at
coming.
the end of the day, like, what could cause unrest? Homelessness, right? So, they're going to figure out a way to fund. They did it before with Section 8 and all these other programs. Trust me, at the end of the day, they might not fund them to buy a house because if they don't have a job to pay the mortgage, but they will fund them to pay their rent. So, that has happened before. Clearly, and I think that I'm just trying to position in the right spot. If there's high homelessness, and people can't afford a home, let's say, then it defaults to to the rental side of the equation.
Yeah, Uncle Sam will always come in and crank up the money.
and I think especially now people are soft, man. Like they just don't see this comment. Like people just don't see this coming. I mean, you have to be relevant. The millionaires of tomorrow are the blue collar, like the air conditioning, the plumbing, the electrical, the contractors. The people can actually do stuff. Like literally, that's where you want to be. I've actually looked at businesses to buy in those spaces. They're hard to find because these guys are crushing it. Yeah. So that's just where we're heading. I don't know how deep it'll go, but I do think that's something to watch.
Yeah, Zack's starting a garbage company. Right?
I'm working on a waste management company because that's not going out of.
No.
This is newly releases of today. It's been in the works for a while, but that's okay.
Cat's out of the bag.
But it's a synergistic business to real estate, right? I mean, one, I use containers all the time. A guy who I partner with was in the business, so I'm all about. It's a relationship business just like every other business. Sure. And I know everyone that's going to need containers. So if you're going to need a container, reach out to me. We got you covered here.
Is that reoccurring revenue? That's what that is. Like that is, I'm telling you guys, reoccurring revenue. Yeah. Well, you know what the most risky thing, in my opinion, is a paycheck.
Yeah.
W-2.
You know why else I like that business, by the way, we talked about it early? It's about delayed gratification. That's not about making this quick money right away. It's a long-term development play. You're planting the seeds, you're watering every day. And the exits on that, just like an apartment complex or something else, you can exit at a 6 to 8, cap on net income.
Yeah. Do you know who owns the most private jets in America? Most people think it's the tech bros or the finance bros. It's not. It's guys that own home services companies.
Ah, really?
Yeah, the plumbers, electricians, the private equity's been rolling.
God bless them, man. They keep America rolling, man. I tell you what,
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I got a question for you. Yes. So, from your perspective, and you're a wrestler, what keeps you motivated every day? You've got 6,000 units, and you got books and authors. Yeah. What drives you? Wake up in the morning. What motivates you? What's your whole mission?
Kiyosaki really I mean, we're really close, Robert and I. We text almost every day. And you know, he kind of opened my eyes. He's like, listen, I know you're going to be fine investing in real estate. He goes, but you're a teacher.
Yeah.
You're an educator. Like, and I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I've never written a book in my life. You know, and then I wrote the book, The ABCs of Real Estate Investing. That was 20 years ago. And then I wrote all the rest with him, for him. We went all over the world together. And I like it. I do. I like, I get emails, I get letters, I get texts, I get, you know, people banging me on Instagram, on YouTube, and all that kind of stuff. And I feel like that period of time with Robert was like the practice, the warm up, you know, for now being able to put this stuff out. I don't have to fly around the world like I did with him. I mean, we got in so much trouble together, him and I. And I mean, literally, I got caught in Russia. I got caught in China, Hong Kong.
They do a whole other podcast on the stories.
Wow.
Just so much stuff. We had a lot of fun. But the point is, I learned a lot from him.
Yeah.
A lot. Obviously, I love his teachings. I'm a big fan. I during COVID, I call up Jerry, who you guys just met, and actually he was on Craigslist, and I like, come on over to my house and let's start filming. And that was it. That was my YouTube channel. And I just started teaching the way I had been taught from Robert, and I liked it. I liked it a lot. I get a lot of, I get a lot from it. And so for me, I think that I want people to know I'm a huge advocate of Main Street.
Yeah.
I feel like that's where I came from.
Yeah.
And so if I can just teach how to Main Street investing and how to use Wall Street like they use it, because all Wall Street does, Wall Street would not exist unless they took all the money from Main Street, from the pensions, from the retirement, from the insurance, from the banks. Like that's all they do is they take the money from the people. So I was like, once I kind of learned that by traveling with Robert, and I can figure out a way to make people understand that you don't have to turn your money over to a wealth manager or a financial planner and then hope, right? And then look at your statement, every quarter or every year or whatever. That is a bad strategy. Financial education is everything. So for me, that's been my mission. And it all started with Robert.
Wow. You have two 20-year-olds, twins?
Yeah. Well, no. I got one. There are a couple there. I just generalized.
Irish twins.
Yeah.
Okay, and they're 20s.
Yeah.
Boy, girl?
3 years apart. Two boys.
Okay, two boys. If today was your last day on earth and you were to leave them with one piece of parting advice, what advice would you give them?
Be kind.
Be kind.
Yeah, that's it. Like, seriously, like, I think, business is a contact sport. Don't get me wrong, but my relationships with people, investors, lenders, it's paid back tenfold, right? Like just doing the right thing, and everybody knows what that is, right? Mm-hmm. Doing the right thing at the right time. So I know that sounds cliche, but it's really true. Like at the end of the day, you end up seeing who shows up, like in hard times, right?
Yeah.
Like you see it.
Yeah.
And I see it really now. So I would say that.
Wow. For anyone that's watching this and they want to learn more, let's say they're in single family, they want to make that jump over to multifamily. You have an event coming up later this year. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So also started that during COVID. It's called limitlessexpo.com. We have about 2,000 people come. There's about 50 speakers. You can go to limitlessexpo.com. But the reason I did it was my high net worth investors, people that invest with me, and now I found that this has been common for everybody, that they ask me questions about oil and gas, about gold, about water, about timber, about single family, about, storage, about office buildings, like anybody, they're doing everything. Just like me. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I'm not just in my lane. So I created this expo with my partner Tarl, who, we said, let's pack the room with the best of the best in class, no selling from stage. teach. And it's worked. Last year we had almost 1,000 accredited investors out of the 2,000. So we're getting a really high-end person there. And the intent is, and the hardest part is actually screening on who do we want to be on stage and who do we want to be in the room. Because as you know, this industry is full of people that will just take your cash. And we've had issues in the past, but we've been really, really tight on who we let in to speak at least and to advertise and to put a booth up. Because I think at the end of the day, people like my business, but they invest in other things. And so I want to find who's the best gold and silver guy in the country or the world. Who's the best oil and gas person I know, and all that stuff. And who's doing the best for self-storage or office buildings or whatever it might be. And so that was the purpose of it. And it's in August of all places in Phoenix because why? Because the rest of the country is in summertime for them, right? And I live in Phoenix, so selfishly,
easy.
It's here. But it's really been fun. It's really, really, really fun. And you're inside, so it is 100+ outside. But you want to be in the right room with the right people, in my opinion. That's how you change your course, and that happened for me certainly. And that's all this is.
I love it. Yeah, I took a look at the speaker lineup, and it is absolutely stacked.
Yeah.
One of the things I hate is when you go to a real estate event and it's just guys selling from the stage. And you're like, hey, I just paid for my tickets and my flights and paid for a ticket. And you get there and it's just a bunch of guys selling you other stuff. So I love that, just leading with education.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's like as you guys move along, you're like I'll be in a meeting with somebody who's never even spoken on stage. And I'm like, dude, you're crushing it. I go, you want to speak at Limitless? Yeah. Like, that's who I want. That's who people want to learn from, right? We don't really want speakers. We want people that are doing stuff.
Authenticity.
Yeah, I got a guy that's doing a wellness spa with Deepak Chopra in Park City. I'm like, I need you to. He goes, I'll fly in. I'll talk about it. He sat, and you just do a moderating thing. You sit with him, but he's like a world of knowledge about the wellness space, right? I would have never even known. That's the stuff. Those are the kinds of people we try to bring in.
I love it.
That being said, and this could be one of the final notes, outside of multifamily, a little single family, where else do you invest your money today? What other areas and niches that you like moving forward in the next 5 years?
Well, obviously, Robert and I are close, so I've been investing in gold and silver forever, right? And that's crushing.
Paid off. Jeez, that's been.
You grew up that way, right?
It's over 100.
Those you can't see on the camera, he's sitting on some gold over here. Just a couple.
So that I invest in timber. I have water rights. I've been buying that. I bought a resort in Sedona for that specifically, water rights, timber. I do that with a friend up in the Northeast. I'm not really a crypto guy. I have bought it, don't get me wrong, but I don't understand it. To me, it doesn't have the backbone, the fundamentals behind it. I do like some stocks. I think REIT stocks are good from time to time, based on what's going on with the REIT and what they've invested in. And I invest in businesses. Actually, I'm working with the Navy SEALs right now, their foundation called Beyond the Brotherhood. And I was on a call today with one of them that's doing some incredible stuff. So I'm really passionate around the veterans and that. And so those guys are smart. Holy crap. Like, they're smart. Like, they're SEALs for a reason. They're not just badasses. But I throw money around to different things and support different people the way I of course, what are you really investing in? You're investing in them, right? Can they pull it off?
Sure.
You know what I mean? Is the idea great? Yes. Okay. If it is, then that's the team, right? Because a lot of people have really good ideas and horrible execution. So yeah.
Love it. Any final words to share before we wrap things up today?
I think that, it's funny. I know you got a big single family audience.
Yeah.
I will tell you, the multifamily folks are wounded.
Yeah.
If there's any time to really be looking, it's now. Trust me, right? I'm telling you, it's coming, because we added so many units in the last 2 years. Rents are flat. There's concessions. Things are going back to the bank. It's like, I would say it's the first couple innings, right, of a 9-inning game. It is the time. And the hardest time is when it's when it's perfect, right? And it's competitive. So this is the time. It's when it's the ugliest and you got to have a team, but this is the time if they want to make the jump.
Love it. Absolutely incredible. I 100% agree. I think you're going to make a lot of money over the next few years. Ken, this has been absolutely great.
Thank you guys.
What we're going to do is, guys, drop a comment below on what was your biggest insight from this podcast. I'm going to pick one of those comments and we're going to sponsor you for a ticket to the Limitless
Very
Summit.
cool. Thanks, man.
So drop a comment down below. We'll send one person to the summit.
They're going to have to be approved, right? To get it. So contingent on approval.
That's right.
We'll
Drop a smart comment. All right, guys. Ken, thanks so much.
Yeah,
this
thank
has
you,
been
guys. Thanks for
absolutely
coming.
incredible.
11 out of 10.
Drop your comments, like, share, subscribe. You know the drill.
Who else do you want to see? Who else do you want to see? It's going to be tough to
next?
beat my guy over here, but
Absolutely.
let's go.
Thanks so much, Ken.
You bet.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.